how did it start? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't always want to be an architect. I actually applied to Bath University to do international business with Spanish. And my A-levels were 2 languages, German and Spanish, and business studies. And then there was a lot of garden makeover programs on TV at the time. It was the age of Ground Force, and Dermot Gavin was on everything. And I thought, that looks amazing. So I basically watched too much daytime TV and decided I was going to go and do a garden design course. And it was a course that was split between Bournemouth Arts Institute, because that's what it was called then, it's now the Arts University Bournemouth, and Kingston Moor College, which is an agricultural college in Dorchester. And so the course was 2 days at one place and 2 days at the other, and a study day. And it was the most amazing course. It was a foundation degree, so it's like 2/3 of a degree. And most of the people on my course were women in their 50s. And I was 18, fresh out of school. And that in itself was a really interesting experience, because I'd gone from being in a school with lots of young people to a completely different environment with people of a completely different age and background, and they'd come from all different professions as well. And at the end of that course, I did a show garden at Hampton Court Palace Flower Show, and that was really amazing experience. And actually, I think I'd be too scared to do it now as a grown-up. But when you're like 20, you just say, oh yeah, I can do that. And so that involved going up and building a garden for 2 weeks, and then a week of the show, and then you tear it all down. And at that point, most of the other people on my course were going off to start garden design businesses, but I just didn't feel ready. I didn't feel at 20 I could go to someone's house and tell them what they should be doing, or I didn't feel like I had the gravitas or the confidence really to do that. And I think also a lot of the processes of garden design have parallels with architecture, so I learned how to do technical drawing, I learned about detailing. We were taught how to lay patios and build walls and do basic plumbing. In fact, that's a lot more than we did at architecture school. So I kind of at that point thought, a logical sideways step would be to go and do a full degree in architecture and become an architect. So that's what I did really, and then the rest of it was quite traditional. I did a full-time degree in architecture undergraduate course. Then I did, as everyone does, a year in industry, and then my postgrad I did part-time. So really, even from the end of my undergrad course, I was in industry, and that's been it really.
What interests me, I think, as well, is you actually got to build stuff.
Yeah, they had a huge barn at the agricultural college for all sorts of reasons, but they have a landscaping course there as well. I don't know if they still do that. But it was set up that you could mix mortar and you could lay things onto this concrete floor, and then they'd just scrape it up again afterwards. But that was I really enjoyed those sessions, yeah.
It's almost understanding when you're designing something that you always hear this, that line actually translates to something, like you draw that line, but actually there's a tangible material. I think it's important because to feel the materials, like to feel the concrete, to feel the block, to feel the timber, you understand that when you come to build it, sometimes it's, you draw a detail, but the access, how do you build it? You know, it's like, obviously with time and experience you understand that, but if you actually build something, you begin to appreciate it a little bit more than just, I can just draw whatever.
Sure. I suppose I haven't really reflected on it that way actually until today really, but I guess even when we went to do the show garden, we had to dig foundations by hand, build a blockwork wall, render it ourselves, put beading on to the blockwork, and actually now on reflection I guess that probably did really help me. Yeah, well, during the time that I was doing my training, the recession hit, and I was in a large practice that got cut by about 2/3 of the employees, and that really shook me up. again, because through school you're told you just need to try hard and everything will be just try hard and you'll have a job, and there's no, you don't expect to lose your job. And I didn't lose my job actually, but around that time I recognised that it would be good to make a move. So I did go to a different practice for a while. So overall I've been only at 3 practices, but that in itself has been really interesting to be in different sizes of offices, different sectors, and I spent, as I say, a lot of time in industry, probably more than most, because I did my part 2 part-time, which I think has really helped me in terms of just confidence and experience, really. And then when I did qualify, so I was probably a little bit more experienced than some other people, I think. So that was really useful. And then straight away we decided to relocate to Thailand for 4 years, which was kind of a bit of a crazy idea. But it was, my husband had an opportunity to work abroad and it felt like an adventure I couldn't really turn down. So needless to say, we're back in the UK now. We've been back nearly 3 years. And so that sort of brings me up to here, really. To live somewhere like Bangkok was amazing. I had quite a lot of time when I was in Thailand, which was really, really nice. So I would, at the weekends, always go out and take a lot of photos. And I wouldn't say I'm a photographer, but I enjoy looking with a camera. So I would always set a lot of challenges for myself, and I would go out pretty much every weekend and then bring back hundreds of photos and edit them. And I found that a really great way to experience a place. So for example, I walked, there's 2 monorails that are the primary way of circulating around the city, really. They call it the BTS. It's like the underground. They also have an underground, but overground. So I walked the length of the 2 lines just as a challenge. That's the kind of thing I would do when I was sort of challenge I set myself, and I'd also drag people along to do it with me sometimes. So yeah, just seeing a city and how that works, and the different areas within a city, how they have distinct identities. The climate there is really hot and sticky, so architecturally completely different challenges to what we have here. Air conditioning is almost seen as pretty much essential, although their traditional building forms incorporate a lot of windows that can be opened on both sides, and they're elevated, so you get that kind of cross breeze. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of the historic architecture left for several reasons. A lot of their buildings are timber traditionally, so obviously over time it doesn't last as long as other materials. In sort of the move to become modern, traditional material architecture was a bit disregarded for a period, which I think happens in lots of countries, and it's only really more recently that it's become valued again. So you had to sort of hunt a little bit to kind of understand the heritage, the architectural heritage, because on the surface everything's concrete and looks kind of, until you dig that bit deeper you don't understand the nuances, really. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and being in the city and all the things that come with it, like exhibitions and great food and different people and a mix of culture and a mix of people from all around the country in Thailand as well, so you get the blend of the different regional foods. And the Thai people were just really friendly and forgiving as well, so even when you're speaking really terrible Thai, just super helpful, if you get a bit lost or need to find something. So that's really, really helped. I always felt very safe and welcome. So that was good. Yeah.
That experience translates to what you do now?
It definitely makes me think and consider my Britishness and England a lot more. I think when you go away to any other environment, the first thing you'll do is be like, oh, it's not like that in England, it's not like that. And so you then start to identify what makes things British, which you might have never noticed. For example, I really came to value uncluttered pavements, which sounds crazy, but in Thailand, the pavements, for starters, they're really high because it floods a lot. It floods because you get this intense rainfall. There's sort of signs sticking out everywhere, and motorcycles and motorcycle taxis will drive on the pavement. There's restaurants on the pavement, there's people selling things on the pavement, there's wobbly paving slabs that when you step on them the water shoots out. So just really kind of simple things, but they help you reflect back on our environment and what the good aspects are, and also the bad aspects obviously as well. But certainly, yeah, it's definitely made me reflect more on what it is that makes our neighbourhood look like our neighbourhood. We don't have high fences in our front gardens, but if you went to a Thai street, everyone has a high with a big gate in front. But the difference, we would say, oh, that's going to make it not a very good community, but actually it means people use their front gardens. So it just helps you to analyse space in a kind of a different way, really, by comparisons. And I think that's the benefit of all travelling. I remember travelling as a student, going to Japan, going even places in Europe that aren't quite as exotic to us. But you definitely, I think comparison is really helpful. Makes you question why things are like they are, what if we did it differently. When I was away, I was doing some freelance work, and it wasn't just architecture. I was doing some graphics work for the school my husband was working at. I was doing some graphics work for a shrimp feed company, and just to keep my mind going, really, and stay involved and flex my design muscles. And also I just like to learn new things, so like getting pretty good at Illustrator or learning more about how to use InDesign to its fullest actually is interesting to me. So when I was doing that work, I was working with clients directly, and not with British clients either, with Thai clients. So I was really learning a lot about developing design with a client on my own, without the backing and without the infrastructure of a bigger business. And then when I came back, I decided I wanted to carry on doing that, and the office I was working in have always been really supportive of me pursuing my own projects. And I think there's a benefit to larger offices of their employees doing work outside of the office, as long as they're not, you know, not sleeping or something, but with a balance, because typically the work you would do outside of an office would be smaller projects, and you might be learning things, I know we were discussing earlier, that you wouldn't necessarily be learning on a large multi-million-pound project. So if you're detailing a conversion or a small extension, you're learning something about technical design that actually on a day-to-day basis, once you become an architect, you don't have the opportunity to learn anymore, because your value monetarily is in running projects with a team of people who are already skilled in that. But I think when you run these little side projects, you learn a lot that actually just makes you ultimately a better architect, really. So I've continued to do that since I've been back, and for a year next month, now I've been running Renga Design 2 days a week, which is my company, and so I've been doing that and balancing it with work at the other company I work for, and that's been really enjoyable. It's had challenges, but it's I don't want to use the word failure, it's very strong, but every time something happens, you learn and you get better. Things that were really scary for me starting out, like writing a fee proposal, even though I would have to do that at work. When you do it, you know, in a big office, you have a director to talk to, you have an associate, you have a team, you always have someone around to bounce your ideas off. When you're doing it for yourself, you don't have anyone to ask. You just send that fee proposal out and go, oh, I hope I got that about right, I think that's how long it's going to take. Or you design something and you work really, really hard at it, and again, you don't have a team to bounce it off. You can't say, oh, do you think I got this roof right, or should I have done this other way, or what do you think about that? So you're very much on your own, but when it works, it's definitely pays off, because you know, you just grow in confidence, which is great. And I really enjoy working with the clients. My business is called Renga because that's a Japanese word for a collaborative type of poetry. So I know that sounds a little silly maybe, but I genuinely think when you're working in architecture, the work shouldn't be about you. The work is about your client, and if you go into it thinking it's going to be about you, then I don't think that's really coming from the right place. So you have to learn to listen, and you have to take on board what that client wants. And if you think that there's a better way they can do it, you have to demonstrate that to them in a way that isn't condescending and isn't patronising. And if they might still not agree with you, and that can have its own frustrations, but you have to be able to say, do you know what? This is your extension, this is your remodel, this is your new house, whatever it is you're working on. And you have to take that on board and then move forward from that. But you still have to believe in that project. You can't lose faith in the project, even if it's not what you would have done personally. But I actually enjoy that process. Learning to enjoy it even more now, I think. So yeah, so I'm really lucky. I'm in a position where I get to do what I call my own work, but it's not my own work. I get to do Renga design, and I also run much larger projects in a team situation as well for the rest of the week, so I get like a good mix. Yeah, works really well for me. Most of my clients love to have a shared Pinterest board. That's been really, really useful. Not all of them, but a lot of them that I've been surprised how powerful that's been. Just helps you, they can kind of see what you're pinning, you can see what they're pinning, and you can comment and you can, so that's quite fun. VR and 360 views and things. And I think as I'm planning to develop more into that this year, I think it will hopefully, if I can get information to my clients in a way quicker that they can understand, I have more time for feedback and more time for refinement, because I think so much of design is in the edit, it's in what you take away. So if you've got more time to hone the idea, it's going to be a better product. So yeah, hopefully that'll be even better.